5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hello everyone, it is I, Mark S.W, and in this video I'm going to share with you guys my top 10 favourite episodes from Thunderbirds Are Go. The CGI remake has now finished, so this would be the appropriate time. If you've never seen the remake, then a big spoiler alert is requested, because what I'm going to do is give you a brief summary of the plot and give you the reasons why I like the episodes. Number 10. Skyhook. International Rescue have to try and save the crew of Cirrus, a cheaply built weather station built by Langstrom Fischler. Due to a hurricane, the rotating blades fail, and the hydrogen-filled balloons are pulling the station up, too high for Thunderbird 1 to reach, and because it doesn't have the proper safety equipment, Thunderbird 2 gets electrified and Thunderbird 3 suffers damage. Their only hope is for John to use Thunderbird 5's space elevator as a fishing hook to grab the station before the balloons burst and it falls to Earth. In the original series, Thunderbird 5 didn't really do much. All it did was pick up the distress call, and that was it. There are only a few episodes where it does get involved in the rescue missions. In fact, here's a fab fact for you. Originally, it wasn't meant to be a Thunderbird. That's why there are a lot of episodes where they refer to it as the satellite or space station instead of Thunderbird 5. I do confess I wasn't very keen on the new design of Thunderbird 5 because unlike the other 4 Thunderbirds, it looked nothing like the original. But I am glad that it gets involved more in rescue missions, especially with John, because in the original series, Jerry Anderson didn't like the puppet design for John. That's why he decided to stick him up in Thunderbird 5 for pretty much the whole series. But in the new series, he does get more to do and he does get more involved in the missions. And this is the first episode where John and Thunderbird 5 save the day. That's why I like this episode. Number 9. Breakout. We don't see Jeff Tracy until the final 2 episodes of Series 3. The reason is because 8 years ago, he tried to stop the Hood from stealing the Zero X because it was equipped with a T-drive engine, which is like a hyperdrive. The Hood escapes, and the Zero X takes Jeff to an area of space called the Oort Cloud, 2.5 light years away from Earth. After discovering this, the Tracys work on building a new Zero X to go and rescue him. But Brains is having trouble rebuilding the T-drive. The only person who can help is the mechanic, because he built the original engine for the original Zero X. But in order to escape the Hood's mind control, he's locked up at a GDF space station called the Hex. When the Hood finds out about this through his spy in the GDF, he sends the Chaos crew up to the Hex to free his old friend. In the early episodes of Series 2, when we see the mechanic, he's this ruthless terrorist who has no mercy or compassion. He's the kind of villain that you really want to punch in the face. But later on in the series, we discover that the Hood is not just using the mechanic, he's controlling him. And this pushes the mechanic to a point where he will do anything to get his freedom. And that makes him even more ruthless. But when he was on the Hex, he was able to think more clearly, and he came to regret the things that he did, and he admits he deserves to be locked up, or even executed. That's why when the Chaos crew were just about to blow up the Hex, he was willing to sacrifice himself in order to save KO. But after some confidence boosting from KO and Brains, he agrees to help International Rescue and build a T-drive engine, providing that Brains keeps his promise to remove the Hood's control over him. Number 8. Inferno. Similar to the original series episode, City of Fire. Due to an electrical overload, a fire breaks out at Crystal Spire, the world's tallest tower. London's chief firefighter, Cass McCready, and her team are unable to put it out, and so Virgil and Alan are called to assist. City of Fire was the second Thunderbirds episode I ever saw in my life. It's always remained a personal favourite of mine. That's why I like Inferno. It's a nice tribute to it. Plus, it's more like a crossover between Thunderbirds and the famous disaster movie, The Towering Inferno, which is what my fan film, Operation Skyfire, was based on. I've always imagined what would have happened in those disaster movies if international rescue got involved. I mean, they could have saved more lives. Take for example the Poseidon Adventure. Only 6 people survived that. And then there's When Time Ran Out. That was a rubbish movie. Had a bit of Thunderbirds magic and it could have been better. Unfortunately, because Inferno was in the second half of Series 2, and because of the poor decision to have a 9-month break instead of 4 months, the episode was not transmitted because it was very similar to the Glenfell Tower incident. So not to transmit it is understandable and you should respect that decision. But do not despair, the episode is available on Amazon Prime, and as a bonus episode on the Volume 2 Series 3 DVD. Number 7. Relic. A meteor shower is threatening to destroy Shadow Alpha 1, a base on the moon that was built by Jeff Tracy and his old friend Captain Lee Taylor. Although the base was abandoned 6 months ago, Taylor is still up there trying to keep it running for as long as possible. When all attempts to warn Taylor fail, Thunderbird 3 is launched with Alan and Scott on board to rescue him. There are 3 reasons why I like this episode. The first one, like Terrorhawks, there are a lot of, I think they call them recurring characters you see in other episodes but aren't the main stars. Captain Taylor is one of those characters and he is the best, hands down. He may have trouble remembering names, but when it comes to surviving in space, he's your man. The second reason, I mentioned Terrorhawks, which is another Anderson show. The CGI remake of Thunderbirds doesn't just do an homage to the original series, it also does homage to the other Anderson shows, and that's why I love it. The moon base is a combination between the Shadow moon base from UFO and Moonbase Alpha from Space 1999. In fact, if you listen carefully, you can actually hear sound effects from Space 1999. And the third reason, Thunderbird 3 gets to go to the moon. In the original series, Thunderbird 3 only got a few missions and one of them was at the sun. The other times were just to link up with Thunderbird 5. But in the new series, Thunderbird 3 gets more missions and it gets to go to different places in the solar system. So it goes to the sun, the moon, Mercury, Mars, Jupiter, even Halley's Comet. Thunderbird 3 is definitely go. Number 6. Firebreak. This episode uses elements from the original series episode Path of Destruction. 2 rescue scouts are caught in a forest fire and have to take refuge in an old crab logger. The Tracy brothers must work fast to rescue them and put the fire out. At first, a lot of people were worried that the episode wouldn't be transmitted like Inferno because it was around that time the Australian bushfires happened. But luckily, it was transmitted, and I liked the episode because it's a disaster that's very similar to disasters in the real world. It shows you what could happen if international rescue get involved. When you stop and think about it, all those disasters, those tragic events that have happened in the past, imagine how many more lives that could have been saved if the Thunderbirds were real. Unfortunately, these are naive times where people would prefer to be rescued by anyone from the DC or Marvel world instead of by regular normal people who don't have superpowers but advanced rescue equipment. The only downside to this episode is that this would have been an ideal moment to bring back the Firefly, one of the original pod vehicles, but alas, it wasn't meant to be. But still, it's a great episode. Number 5. Breakdown. On his birthday, Virgil goes to the Arctic Circle to answer a breakdown distress call that's coming from a glacial ice shelf. When he gets there, he discovers a scientific expedition team deep in the shelf. When it starts to crumble, the team leader, Dr. Peck, refuses to evacuate because he's desperately searching for a rare bacterium to help cure his daughter from a disease. If you're a big Virgil Tracy fan, then this is the episode for you. All the Tracy brothers are brave and they're all willing to risk their lives to save others. But Virgil has always been considered the fearless one. He'll do anything to save lives. In fact, some of the rescue missions he gets involved in are very similar to real-life disasters. In the episode, he's just doing his job. He's just trying to save the team. But he doesn't know the full details because Dr. Peck is arrogant and stubborn and doesn't tell him. It's only when Peck says it's a matter of life or death, Virgil realizes that there could be more at stake here than just the team, And when Peck finally gives the details and the explanation, Virgil's willing to assist. Number 4. Falling Skies. Similar to the original series episode, Rick O'Shea. Brains has designed and built a space hotel using nano-construction technology, but on the day of its grand opening, the hood sabotages the station. A hull breach knocks the hotel out of orbit, and it should repair itself, but it doesn't. While the Tracy brothers rescue Lady Penelope and the guests, K.O. tries to find the hood before the hotel crashes right on top of Florida. This is the first episode of the second half of Series 1, and I like it because it has some traditional scenes and some new scenes. Traditional scenes, for the first time we see the flashing eyes on the portraits, and we get to see Alan and Scott on board Thunderbird 3, just like the original series. The new scenes, we get to discover that Thunderbird 3 has a cargo bay so it can carry a pod vehicle. And then there's that scene where it transfers the guests to Thunderbird 2. I love that scene. In the original series, there are episodes where Thunderbirds 2 and 3 are on the same mission, but we never see them together. So after seeing an episode like Falling Skies, we know we can expect to see more scenes like that. Number 3. Deep Search. On Jupiter's moon, Europa, explorers Buddy and Ellie Pendergast are searching for extraterrestrial life. When they start to drill into the ice, pressure from a geyser causes the ice to crack and they fall into a subterranean ocean. While the Pendergasts survive in their mini-submarine, Alan and Gordon blast off to the rescue in Thunderbird 3, with Thunderbird 4 on board and modified with skis, powerful engines and a heat drill. What I like about this episode is that it's one of the first episodes that uses elements from one of the TV21 comic stories. In fact, Deep Search is one of 3 episodes that refers to the comic story Solar Danger. After completing a mission around the sun and saving the world, Thunderbird 3 crashes into a swamp on the planet Venus. Thunderbirds 1 and 2 have to be modified for spaceflight, and even Thunderbird 4 has to be upgraded so it can operate in Venus's swamps. This is why you may have seen a photo of Thunderbird 1 being attacked by a giant alien monster. This episode tells you that they're not just going to make references to the original TV series, but they're also going to make references to the TV21 comic stories. That's what makes it more exciting. Number 2. Power Play. The mechanic invades the Grand Sequoia Dam in North America and steals power so he can complete Project Sentinel, a project that the Hood abandoned because he considered it to be too extreme. When the turbines are pushed to the limit, the dam starts to break up. So Scott needs to rescue the trapped workers, while Alan, Gordon and Virgil must work together and stop the cracks from growing. Here's another fab fact. This is the only episode where the mechanic uses all 3 of his different kind of mechas. This is an episode that features a disaster that really pushes International Rescue's equipment to the limit, particularly Thunderbird 2. Lots of us admit that Thunderbird 2 is the best Thunderbird. I mean, it's a personal favourite of mine. The only problem is, what if there's a rescue mission that requires Thunderbird 4 and a pod vehicle? Thunderbird 2 might not have time to go back to Tracy Island to swap pods/modules. This episode would have needed 3 modules, but luckily they only had 2. They had Module 4, which contained Thunderbird 4, and just enough room to put 2 pod modules inside, but then they also needed Module 5, which contains the storage tanks and pumping units, full of nanocrete. Luckily, Thunderbird's shadow was on standby and it had been modified so it can carry the module. So with the remake, they've actually covered that problem, which is great. That's why it's one of my favourites. In fact, with the remake, you also see how Thunderbird 2 picks up Thunderbird 4 after a mission, something you never see in the original series. Number 1. Fire Flash, based on the original series episode Trapped in the Sky. K.O. is travelling home on board everyone's favourite supersonic airliner, the Fire Flash, but the Hood plans to hijack it because it's been modified with new engines. After a confrontation which leaves the plane with a punctured fuel tank and damaged landing gear, the Hood abandons Fire Flash, leaving K.O. and International Rescue to find a way to land the plane safely and save the passengers. This episode is a great homage to the original series, that's why I love it, especially because it brought back the Fireflash landing music. That just made me smile. When I was at the premiere for the new series in 2015, there was a Q&A panel and they said that they might be bringing back Fireflash. Then I saw the documentary by Reggie Yates and saw some clips of the Fireflash, including the landing scene. That got me even more excited for the new series. In 2000, there was a documentary called Mr. Thunderbird, the Gerry Anderson story. And Gerry said that after doing a remake of Captain Scarlet, he would like to do a remake of Thunderbirds. So it's good to see that someone has actually done it for him, and also as a tribute to both him and Sylvia Anderson. The original series will always be the best, but when it comes to remakes, this CGI remake is a hell of a lot better than the 2004 live-action movie. Like the Battlestar Galactica remake, the Thunderbirds remake is not to be underestimated. It's got a lot of great episodes, some episodes are poor, but I do think you should give the series a chance if you haven't seen it. The only thing that put me off was the break times. After 13 episodes, the series would have a break and then return with the remaining episodes, but the break times kept changing. For season 1 they transmitted 13 episodes, had a 4-month break and transmitted the remaining 13. For series 2, 13 episodes transmitted, but then they had a 9-month break and transmitted 12 episodes. For season 3, they transmitted 9 episodes, had a 12-month break, then transmitted another 9 episodes, had a 6th-month break, and then transmitted the rest. It's just weird! There isn't going to be a 4th series, but if there was, I guess the break time would be a year and a half. But those are my favourite Thunderbird episodes. If you have a favourite, do leave it in the comments below. And if you've enjoyed this countdown, do give it a thumbs up. And be sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you get notified when I upload a new video. And you can follow me on social sites, Facebook, Instagram and Twitter. Thanks for watching guys, and I'll see you later. Over and out.